Let's do this.
Yep.
Hello there, we're back again with Seduce Me episodes. Tartar Racing here with Steve One Studios. And we're gonna go over Prince versus the Brute.
Once again, stupid amounts of time since the last episode was recorded.
Oh yeah,
Every single series of ours decided to take a small impasse for the time being. And then we've just come back to everything now.
Yep. We might as well be here as we are. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go again with...
We might want to change the name up at some point for this.
You got any suggestions? Or should we keep going?
I'm thinking about what we could possibly change the name to. Is there anything topical of the moment?
Ymir. Wait. Have you watched Attack on Titan?
No. Not the newest shit, anyway.
Yeah. All I knew about it from the bundles,
Name it Lady D. Name the character Lady D.
there you go. Let's do that
Yeah.
then.
Or Alloy.
How much?
Considering what released recently. Alloy is in A-L-O-Y.
Is that what it looks like?
I think that's how it's spelled, Alloy.
Okay.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh! All right, let's get...
Yeah,
what?
Rare. I think I've only seen good stuff about the game as well.
Yeah.
So, very nice.
So let's just keep it as Alloy and keep going?
Yeah.
All right.
Alloy, yes.
I lived in the mansion for about half a year. Even after I graduated from school, I lived in the house. Life in the house became one filled with interesting events and experiences. Why? Because I lived in Incubi. My summer vacation became filled with boys living in my home, cooking me food, helping me clean, and overall just being the most intriguing roommates anyone could ever have. I mean, imagine it. You walk through the kitchen to get a drink, and all of a sudden, a really hot guy walks in to grab something, with his equally hot brother joining after. Or you meander down a hall and a guy clad in only a towel casually steps out of the bathroom. Yeah, it's a fantasy perfect for any visual maxist who loves seeing men. Present company included. However, for me, it was reality. I lived with 5 extremely hot men, who happened to be demons, and I have slowly grown adjusted to it, where I wasn't internally drooling at the sight of them. It was hard, I won't lie, especially with the 2 of the incubi in particular. James, the eldest, and Sam, the middle brother. Both were extremely handsome to me, but were on completely opposite ends of the spectrum as to why. James was the picture-perfect image of a gentleman. He was kind, caring, wise, and extremely conscious of everything around him, to where he knew exactly how to handle any problem his way. Also, he was tall, which kind of helped in situations. Hey, James, can you help me reach the top of the shelf? I want to check out the dishes for any cracks.
Certainly.
His height proved to be very useful, especially when I caught him shirtless. Add on the fact that he wore glasses, had perfectly groomed hair, spoke many different languages, and was the new CEO of my grandfather's company, and you had perfection all in a singular being. On the other hand, Sam was on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of personality and lifestyle compared to James. With toned muscles and strengths for days, Sam never failed to make my jaw drop with the simplest of actions. Ugh, I can't carry this.
Hey, you need help lifting that?
Huh? Yeah, I'd appreciate it. While many people imagined him to be a total ass, once he got close to him, he was actually a pretty nice guy. He worked as a police officer, dedicated to serving justice, but always had the time to help around the house and play video games with the two younger incubi. James and Sam stood out to me, and I couldn't get my mind off of either of them. Sometimes I wound up picturing both incubi charming at me at once before I had to smack my head with a pillow to snap back to reality. A charming gentleman or a down-to-earth heartthrob? My heart was split. Even in my own home, I was lost in trying to decide. I couldn't have both. I knew that it wasn't fair to claim both. Deep within my heart, I understood that I could only devote my life to one, yet temporarily yearned for two. What the hell was I gonna do?
Hey, you alright?
Looking up, I was met with Sam gently laying a hand on my head and rustling my hair gently. A simple touch made my cheeks warm up, but I shook my head, pretending that nothing was wrong. No, I'm alright.
You sure? You look like something was seriously bugging you.
I'm fine, really.
Is there something we can help with?
Just my luck. James entered the dining room on the other side of my seat, cell phone in his hand as his thumb quickly tapped a long text out to someone. Despite accomplishing this, his focus was on me, eager like Sam to know if I was okay. I half expected the others to show up as well. Sam took his hand off my head as I looked at the entrance of the dining room curiously. Seriously, guys, I'm fine. Where are the others?
Well, I just got the word that Matthew's working overtime at the company, trying to perfect a toy he's been designing. Eric is at a tailor shop working on a commissioned suit, and Damien is assisting him for the evening.
So it's just us.
Yo, got a preference for dinner? I've been craving steak. Well, I would prefer chicken tonight. We'd appreciate your opinion on the matter.
Chicken?
Yes.
Yeah, we know who our boy is.
Yeah,
Tonight-
our boy.
Tonight
is very much a chicken night.
Yes, tonight
Lovely.
was a chicken night. Yes.
Yes.
Sam shrugged, moving and taking a seat at the table. James, however, smiled and nodded before walking towards the kitchen. But not before giving my shoulder a slight squeeze. Huh? I looked up at James to catch a small smirk on his lips before he vanished into the kitchen. What? James took his time in making dinner. Regardless of what he was making, James always made dinner smell absolutely delicious. I couldn't wait to dig in. I took the time to get lost in some online videos. There were a couple of cool Let's Players that I've been following, and I've always managed to find time to watch them play new games, especially indie games. There were a large amount of girls I admired in the Let's Play community, and I made sure to stay up to date with each of them. They deserved it after all. Sam, however, kept his focus to his cell phone for some reason, typing and waiting as if he was in texting war with someone. He had thankfully learned how to read and write, so texting was easy for him, but he was never really attached to his phone in the first place. My curiosity got the better of me. What are you doing?
Oh, just texting.
Who are you texting?
Oh, Nunya. Nunya.
Ninya. Ninya who?
Nunya Business House. This man is trying to be comedic. Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, don't be rude.
James finally stepped in with a plate of food in each hand and a third plate on his elbow. He served me, then Sam, then set the third plate on the seat across from Sam for himself. Of course, as James would, he made pasta for the three of us. James had made us all chicken parmesan with farfalle pasta, I was ecstatic from the sight, but the smell of fresh garlic and sauce melting the cheese was mouth-watering.
Thanks for cooking, James. You're welcome, Sam.
I had to stop for a moment and look up at the two brothers, just from the sound of their voices. Something was up. Is something wrong? Both, as if synchronized by my voice, turned to me in surprise before shaking their heads. Okay, this is weird.
We're fine. Just hurry up and eat, doofus. Sam, must you use the term doofus? It seems rather insulting, don't you think?
Wait, what?
What's wrong with it? It's just a nickname. A negative one at best.
Guys,
There's nothing wrong with the word doofus. You're just overthinking it. I could be, but I also tend to give people a little more respect than calling them random titles.
guys! Silence took over at last, but the boys still kept glaring at each other as if their fight continued in their heads. What the heck was wrong with them? What the heck is going on? Why are you two fighting? No reply. It was like their mental fight turned into a war. I didn't want to make things worse by siding with one or the other without knowing what was truly going on, so I had to get out of the situation and make them solve things like the brothers they were. I had only eaten a portion of my dinner and my appetite was already spoiled. You know what? I'm just gonna eat in my room. You need to seriously talk and stop fighting. That seemed to break them out of their stare down. Both boys stared at me in surprise.
You don't have to. Oh shit, we're sorry.
Good night, guys. I'll see you both in the morning. I shook my head as I took my plate and left the dining room. Yeah, I needed to give them space. They needed to sort out whatever hostility was between them alone. As much as I cared for them both, they were adults and they needed to figure out things on their own. Things out on their own. I finished dinner and did some work before going to bed. Maybe tomorrow they'd be okay. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Ah, yes, fighting. Just what the hell was that about? I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't start that ignorant bullcrap, James. I know you're trying to make me look like an ass back there. I don't have to make you look like anything, Sam. You already do that enough yourself. What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you really that obsessed about trying to show that you're better than me? That you stoop this low? Trust me, if I was obsessed, you would not be able to be anywhere near this house. I'm merely trying to show my respect where it belongs and be a good role model. Is ass kissing what you call respect? How about treating someone like a normal person instead of shoving them into a pedestal? Okay then. Words. Let
Yep.
go of me. Almaris?
Amorous? Yeah, let's just go with that.
Oh, you want to stop using our real names now, Raystro? I have no problem solving like this. Like the demons we are, your fucking highness. As much as you're as much as you're threatening me to put you in place, I'm sure we both would not like to go down that path. Right, because you have a reputation of being a gentleman. I don't see a problem with having such a reputation when it's true. Just because you're a gentleman doesn't make you better than me. I'd rather look someone in the eyes as an equal than be a perfectionist prick with a superiority complex. Maybe so. Still, that doesn't mean I will concede to you over this. I don't plan to back down either. I guess we're at an impasse. Indeed, we'll just have to wait to see who she chooses.
The next morning there
What is
was...
that?
Ugh,
What the fuck is that?
yeah. The next morning there was a strange air in the house. Eric, Matthew, and Damien were all up and off to work at dawn as if a fire had started when the sun rose. I knew they had work, but to leave without saying bye was out of the place for all of them. Morning.
Morning. Good morning, miss.
I was left alone with James and Sam again. James had taken a day off to clean the house, and Sam was off duty, cleaning the front yard for his rare Tai Chi practice. Part of me hoped that they have resolved whatever issue they had. A small inkling in my gut, however, told me otherwise. James had made breakfast for us. Both he and Sam had finished and had left the dining room to attend to their own agendas. I ate in silence, trying to discern my own thoughts. After I finished my last bite, I sat lumped in my chair inside, wondering what the heck was going on. I didn't want to intrude, but maybe I had to this time. Maybe the problem was just that bad. I looked at the window of the dining room, catching sight of James tending to the flowers. As I turned to the archway in the main hall, I imagined Sam outside going in some meditation pose on the yard. Who was I going to approach about this?
James.
Mm-hmm.
James!
I knew that James had a better level head, so speaking to him about the trouble was much easier than speaking to Sam. I walked out to the garden, looking over to see James pulling out weeds and soiling some of the plants around the windows. At my gaze, James stopped and turned to me with a smile.
Did you enjoy breakfast?
Yeah, thank you. James?
What is it?
Can I ask you about what happened last night? For a moment, James seemed to stare at me in silence before turning his gaze to the flowers in front of him and closing his eyes.
I must apologize for that. Sam and I are having some personal issues of late.
What do you mean? Is there anything I can do to help? James shook his head and stood up, walking over to me with a small, reassuring smile.
I'm afraid this is something we'll both have to deal with for a while. In private, it's nothing major.
I didn't like the sound of that. Something was off in his speech. I knew better than that. I wasn't stupid. James. I reached forward and grabbed James' hand, uncaring for the dirt that stained it. He stared at me in shock, but didn't pull away. Good. Let me help. You and Sam are brothers. You shouldn't be fighting like this.
Dots.
At that moment, I could see guilt paint over her expression as he lowered his head.
We are brothers, but
I could see him try and form words in his mouth, but he would not let his voice fill out what he wanted to say. It was like he was holding back some sort of big secret, one I needed to hear. To my surprise, he gently pulled his hand away from my grasp.
this is something we really can't let you get involved in. I'm sorry, please understand.
James.
I wish I could tell you the situation, but we don't want you to be put in a position where you'd feel uncomfortable and be forced to choose sides.
With the back of his clean hand, James gently brushed a strand of his hair from the side of my face to behind my ear.
You deserve to freely make your own choices.
What did that mean? Before I could think on it more, my phone began to buzz. Huh? Excuse me. James silently nodded and returned to his work as I quickly rushed inside and answered. Much to my displeasure, my parents had called me, checking up on me and asking me if I was prepared for college. I had recently graduated from high school a month prior and was on my way to go to college, which was a commute from the mansion. I rushed to my room to continue the call, knowing that my ear would be attached to the phone for a while if both my mom and dad shared in it talking to me. It escaped me how long I was on the phone with them. When I was finally able to hang up, it was already time for lunch. Great. I slowly made my way down to the dining room, thinking on something simple to eat, when my worries about Sam and James became real once again.
Would you get out of the kitchen, Sam? Why? I'm trying to make lunch. And that requires you to make a mess? Hey, I'm trying to be nice and all, and make all lunch, you ungrateful prick.
Oh no. I rushed into the dining room, but stopped as James spoke again.
Do you think making this mess will get her appreciation?
What?
Since when the hell was that your business? Since you decided to come in and use up the ingredients I was going to use for our lunch. I'm sorry, alright. I just want to... You want to try and impress her with cooking, taking away a job I do in the house in hopes of earning her affections. So what if I am? You're not the only person in this house who can cook for her. At least I don't have to make a mess to show my affection for her.
They both liked me?
You're such an asshole. You're really pushing the limits of my patience, Sam. What are you gonna do, huh?
That's it. Both of you? Stop it. The kitchen was a mess. Sam and James were nose to nose with each other, anger flaring in their eyes before they turned to me in fear. They were caught red handed, and I was going to set them straight, whether they wanted me to be involved or not. Both of you, dining room, now. I fought back the angry snarl in my voice. This was ridiculous. They were fighting each other over me? Despite feeling flattered, I was not going to let this continue on. I glared hard at both of them, causing them to slowly make their way out of the kitchen into the dining room, heads hung low in shame. I kept my eyes on them until they both sat at the table, one seat separating them. At least they respected who still owned the house. You will both sit in silence until I tell either of you to speak. Got it? James and Sam nodded, staring at the table like children who are about to be grounded. I, however, took some time to fix the kitchen and make quick sandwiches for lunch. It gave me time to think on my plan of attack. They both liked me. That's why they were hiding the fight from me. They didn't want me to pick sides, but now it had gone too far. I feel conflicted. Both were being idiots about the situation. Were they that jealous of each other? Then again, they were brothers who liked the same person. I let it aside and placed my plate of food on the crook of my elbow while I carried down both of their plates to the dining room with my hands. After settling their food down, I crossed my arms and looked at both Sam and James. First of all, it doesn't matter who makes food for this house as long as it's done without something exploding and any mess is made is clean after. James grimaced and Sam lowered his head further, timidly scratching his head. Second, this fight between you needs to end. I don't care who started, but I am not someone to fight over, especially not like this. At that, James and Sam stared up at me in shock. As their mouths opened in shock, I held my hand up to ensure no sound would erupt from either party. Look, this is a really bad situation. I get it. However, fighting each other is not going to help anything. I care about both of you. A part of my heart began to break. I really did care for her and love both, but eventually was going to have to choose one. This was going to hurt. So, I'm going to need some time to think about this. No matter how this goes, I hope you'll both respect my decision. They stared at me, but they nodded in unison. As the situation hit them, they slumped their shoulders and returned their focuses down to the table. Do either of you have anything to say now?
No, miss. Just that we are extremely sorry. Yeah, we're sorry. Take as much time as you need, alright?
Thank you. This was a very sad decision. James was a gentleman who treated me like no other man had before, but Sam was that kind of man who made me feel safe and kept me down to earth. Time began to fly by without me noticing it. I remained silent to both of them about my choice for days, weeks. They respected my silence and remained civil to each other. I truly cared for both. And yet, I knew one of them made me feel special, while the one I had for the other was deep. The affection I had for the man I truly adored seemed to be endless. How did it take me this long to figure this out? I stared at my bed sheets, lost in thought. I had made up my mind, yet I was worried about hurting the one that I did not choose. No, it was okay. They would not hold any ill will against me or the one I chose. I knew deep in my heart that it was the case here. I just had to be brave and follow my heart. And my heart wanted, let's go.
James. James.
Yep. I slowly made my way downstairs, hoping to catch one of the boys in the dining room or kitchen. Huh? Oh.
Okay.
I smiled softly. He seemed a lot more relaxed than I imagined. Hey, Sam. We stared at each other for a long moment before Sam let out a small, defeated laugh.
James is outside.
Huh?
I know you well enough to know that you love him and you're all set on telling him. I had a snowball's chance in hell against James.
Hey. I walked up to him and placed my hand on his cheek, frowning softly. I still care about you, Sam. Despite carrying sad eyes, Sam smiled back and rustled my hair.
And I care about you. Now don't keep him in suspense. Might as well go let him know how you feel.
Part of me felt relieved to know that Sam was going to be okay. I nodded to him and raised my arms to him, offering a hug. Sam was always the best at giving strong hugs. Sam wrapped his arms around me in a friendly hug, giving me a quick squeeze before releasing me and saluting on his way to the dining room. At that moment, I knew it was okay. James? At my call, I pinned my sights onto the man in question. He was staring at the flowers around the gazebo, stopping me to turn to me at my voice.
Miss, is everything alright?
I couldn't help but getting a small grin on my face. Everything's good, James. I just wanted to tell you something.
Well, what is it?
I took in a breath. It was answering a question long overdue. My heart was skipping beats and my face began to warm in a slight blush. This was it. James, I choose you. A moment of silence. James stared at me in shock at my words, taking in what I said. My chest finally relaxed, and joy slowly took over my expression. James gently held out his hand to me, holding his other to his chest.
I don't deserve you, but I would be honored to make you happy for as long as you will have me.
I know you will, James. I know you will. Something in my heart clicked. I had made the right choice. What would happen between us? All I knew is that I would find a perfect, happy ending in his arms. And
And
that is it.